Hello, this tutorial is going to get you started on your chewing gum project. This is meant to be a packaging design assignment that should build on your skills from your other classes where you've done packaging design before. So I'd like you to double check your assignment, make sure that you understand the objective and the steps, and you will need to follow the checklist right here. So double check that you have all of these here and notice it says create two flavors. So you're actually doing two boxes with the same template. The template is right here. It's kind of a flat box for chewing gum. This little funny looking thing is where this piece gets tucked in. So you actually will assemble the chewing gum box and put it together as you finish. So I have one started, and the first thing you want to think about is your concept. So you can, as you can see, I was looking at concepts for fire because I want to do a name of gum, chewing gum called Cinnagum that is cinnamon flavored. So you're not just copying an existing chewing gum, you're coming up with your own, and I'm going to be doing a fire, a hot cinnamon, and then a cool mint. So I'm doing two different types. So I could just find things online, but I found that it's a little more fun to create images in Illustrator and then use them on the candy box. So I've created this little flame that's going to be part of my design. And here is the template in Photoshop. So I am working with two different programs. Your candy box probably should be created in Photoshop. If you're doing graphics and other information that you'd like to do in Illustrator, that is perfectly fine to double up and use two different programs. So when you open your template, it's going to look like this. And the first thing I like to do is to duplicate the layer. So remember, your layers in Photoshop are over here, and if you just drag this down to the layer, you'll have two of those, and I like to just have a copy of one in case I need backup. Now the first thing I want to remind you to do is make sure if you're clicking on your move tool, you have auto select and show transform controls clicked in, because if you don't have those two going, it's really hard to work with your project completely. The first thing I'm going to do is start blocking out some color, and I wanted to go with this really rich sort of maroon color, and I'm just going to drop color in with my paint bucket. Now there are lots of ways to drop color in. If you don't want to just do solids, you can use your gradient tool, but if you're going to be putting in a gradient, I would recommend that before you use the gradient tool, you make a selection. For instance, if I wanted just one section of the chewing gum to have a gradient, I could use my selection tool, and then if I drag through, it's just going to fill that one section. So feel free to do it either way. I did a square for that step. Remember also, when you're going back in Photoshop, it's Command Option Z, so you can go back multiple steps. I could also select an area and then do a gradient if I wanted to throw in just a little bit more of a custom color design. But I think I'm going to go with solids for most of my sections. So I'm going to get my paint bucket tool, and I'm just going to fill in this section, this one, and this one. I'm also going to include a fill for those two. So notice I've got those sections done. I might do a different color for my side panels, and I just think it's really helpful to sort of stick with a really basic color scheme as you do this. So I'm going to go back over here. I've already grouped this, but I just wanted to remind you, when you drag from Illustrator to Photoshop, it works pretty well. Photoshop to Illustrator, not so much. So you'll notice when you do drag something in from Illustrator that it has an X through it. And when I hit return, it now is editable. But as you can see, it needs to be rasterized before proceeding. So to rasterize it, usually you just hold Control click and you can rasterize layer. Mine gave me a message to do so, so I've already rasterized. I'm going to go Shift and drag. Okay. And again, if I said that really fast, I want to remind you, Sometimes you do have a layer that has a little black square in the corner, and that means that you need to control click or right click and rasterize the layer so that it's more editable than not here. So there's my my main image, and I'm just going to barely get started here. I notice sometimes when I'm doing a tutorial, if I go in too much detail, people don't tend to watch the whole thing, or they end up doing something too similar. So I'm going to try to make it quick here. So I want to use my T tool, my text. I'm going to click once, and I'm going to type in the name of my candy, or my gum, which is going to be Cinegum. Now you might have noticed as I typed that you can't see anything, and the reason why is because my text color is the exact same as my box color. So I'm going to change my text color to black, and there's my Cinegum brand. I wanted to keep it sort of chic and modern, so I'm going to stick with this kind of font. I do want you guys to remember that your font should be easy to read. So there's some things that I can do to make this a little easier to read. I might click on it and give it a layer style. So I'm going to go into layer style, and blending options. And I'm going to immediately take a look at some of these. This gives it a little bit of a raised edge to it. I might also put a stroke on it, probably not black. So if I click on the stroke color, I might actually sample this bright orange from my logo here and put that on, but I'm going to make it a little smaller, just so it kind of highlights the Cinegum flavor here. So, and that is called a layer style. You're going to need to put your your gum name on the side panels as well. So I'm going to go ahead and fill those sections in with gradients this time. So I'm going to go back to my layer 1 and use my selection tool, and then I'm going to switch to gradients. So I want those edges to kind of have a different effect. I'm going to do all of those and gradient fill them. I'm going to go opposite direction on this one, and then I'm going to do the last panel and slide through it this way. If I hold shift, it makes it extra straight. Okay, so I'm going to go Command D to deselect, and I just wanted to check this, and I'm just going to Option drag to give that label on each side. And I'm just sort of dragging and placing it. Every time I do a rotation or an adjustment, I do need to hit Option. Okay, so I've got a pretty good start here. I want to see what happens when I apply the same settings from my text layer, my effects layer, to my smart object or my logo, my flame. So I'm going to Option drag this down, and it does give it a little bit of a lip, a little bit of a raise here. I'm not sure I like the way these colors are looking, so I may go into my layers adjustment and try working through some of the different options in here. I feel like it might need a screen or a color burn or something else to kind of soften it. And you know, sometimes you just work through these and find something that you like, and sometimes you start from scratch. So this is a very experimental project. I definitely want you just to be trying new things and thinking about what you think is going to look best. There isn't a right or wrong way to do it. Just kind of think about your design skills we've been talking about. Have fun with it. And again, just make sure that you double check your assignment often so that you don't miss any steps.